Here's a quick little thing that I saw. Now, the reason why I'm making a lot of these talks is because I want to relay my experiences with people. I just don't want to talk about stuff just because. And this review is of Stephen Hawking's Smoke My Socks, written by Hilton Radcliffe, and the review is done by D.E. Scott, which is, Donald Scott. It says here, he writes, "The book is cleverly phrased, it grabs the reader, and will not let go." Ratcliffe introduces his subject saying, quote, "With my tail bushed out and my ears flattened, I began a campaign of resistance that was to last 40 years. The defining moment in my quest for enlightenment in this frustrating maelstrom came in conversation with the late Professor Geoffrey Burbage. Hilton, he said to me a few months before he died, the problem is really this. The administrators of education and space science will be extremely loath to abandon the Big Bang Theory because if they do it will amount to an explicit admission that they actually know far less than what they have led us all to believe. That's the problem. Their pride will simply not allow it." I want to talk about that real quick. And the idea that they can't admit that they know far less about the universe than what it is they were told in school. I think that plays into the credibility game. You don't go to 4 years of college, get your bachelor's in science degree in physics or chemistry or biology, spend another 2 years getting your master's degree, and then spend a whole another large chunk of your life working on a PhD just to find something in your field that goes against what all your other peers disagree with, or something that conflicts with the paradigm of the time. You don't spend all that time and then go, oh wait, we were very, very, very wrong concerning this. You don't have that kind of mentality set up in your mind when you go to school. That kind of mentality is brushed out of you. This is how everything works, and then they pump you into the real world supposedly, and then you stay at these universities for long periods of time, and that's what becomes of you. There's no room to admit failure. There's no room to admit that you have no idea what you're doing. Because if you even hint at the idea that you have no clue what's going on or how the universe works, you immediately damage your credibility. And that is something that they want to avoid at all costs, because it means loss of income. It means they'll shun you from your groups. It means, it's just bad news all the way around. So, yeah, the pride, that's only one small little bit of the larger picture. And it says here, and this is another really good point, quote, "It is certainly not because he is stupid." Or actually, let me read, I'll go ahead and continue on. He counterbalances this true statement of Burbage with praise for the integrity of Stephen Hawking. H.R. Hilton Radcliffe describes the ebb and flow of Hawking's life's work, included in his famous bet with Kip Thorne and John Preskill about black holes. Hawking and Thorne lost the bet to Preskill. Hawking admitted he was wrong about black holes, but Thorne never did. H.R. describes the details and concludes, quote, "Dr. Hawking is one of the most ineffectual scientists in living memory. Why is this?" And then it goes, "It is certainly not because he is stupid." Of course, Hawking isn't stupid. "He is in fact exceptionally intelligent. He has courage, passion, and integrity. Those are very important aspects of a scientist or a mathematician. So why couldn't he cure cancer or invent a revolutionary telescope or devise a way to more efficiently explore the moons of Saturn. To be quite honest, it is not in the least because he was not capable of doing those things. It is, I submit, because of the method he was trained to use. His conscription to the mathematics of imagination sucked him into a vortex that sustains itself indefinitely, without need of physical interaction with reality. Now that series of statements right there, in essence, is the reason why pseudoscience has become so popular inside of establishment astronomy, cosmology, and particle physics. They've become so obsessed with the mathematics of imagination that they have removed themselves from reality so far that their theories are what's called not even wrong, meaning they're unfalsifiable. So, even if you could figure out a way to falsify the theory, it probably wouldn't be the theory that you're describing anyways. The fact that these people ignore chemistry, electrochemistry, and basic physics in general is really, really, really bad. But it's in vogue now for some reason, because people think that if you study mathematics and go off the deep end into imagination land, that you're somehow more intelligent than an engineer that can build a really advanced bridge, which, doesn't make much sense. But what happened is that he got sucked into that vortex. It became appealing to separate yourself from reality. In essence, you lose your mind. And that's where a lot of scientists are these days with the multiverse pseudoscience and quark pseudoscience and general relativity pseudoscience. It's not going to come to anything useful. Anyways, here we go. And Donald Scott, he says, some paragraphs that epitomize the strength of his thesis, Hilton Radcliffe's thesis. Page 92 is something that I would like to speak a little bit more of. It says here, on science by consensus, HR states, quote, truth is by no means the product of agreement among a majority. In fact, it emerges more often than not from the statistical opposite of consensus, meaning truth usually emerges from the very few versus the very many. How many people might believe in a particular model has no bearing whatsoever on whether that model aligns with objective reality. End quote. This is ignored by most astronomers and astrophysicists. Most astronomers and astrophysicists take up the stance that because everybody believes it, it is correct. It's the worst reasoning ever for believing in something. Yet they take that attitude because it makes them a part of that club atmosphere, or part of their society. It gives them purpose and direction. But we all know that if everybody believes the earth is flat, it doesn't mean it's flat. We all know that just because everybody believes that earth is the center of the universe doesn't make it true either. So consensus is that social grouping of ideas just because everybody believes it, to bulwark themselves in the ivory towers and to defend off the skeptics and all the people who doubt their methods. With my own theory development, I'm learning we also took a very large step in understanding and that the sun and stars are individual constructs, and that they don't leave any remains from their formation. So to say a planet is formed from the remains of a star being born is unequivocally false. The fact is that the star cools, dies, and shrinks and becomes the planet, meaning the planet is the byproduct of the star evolving itself. The planet is the ancient star. But to think consensus has one way that they don't realize that they're using, and the truth is something else entirely. Well then, here's another series of ideas. One of the big ones, and the big ones in the sense that I can actually explain what it really means inside of my own theory development. Okay, page 154 to 155. He talks about territoriality, meaning your territory, or the protection of one's turf. This is strong motivation for power structure to defend even blatantly false theories. Ratcliffe does not discuss the applications of this principle to the obstruction of new ideas in established, accepted science. He should have. This is obvious to EU people, much less so to the public at large. Essentially, when you protect your turf, you place a value on expertise and narrow-minded thinking in your field. And stellar metamorphosis, I can see where that is a very preventive social construct in regards to theory development, meaning if you have chemistry and chemists studying one specific way that matter interacts with each other, they usually stay in their little ball. They don't step out of their little ball of understanding, and if they do, automatically they're not the expert in some other field anymore. So naturally, they don't want to step outside of the bounds of what they're comfortable with. And if they were to step out of their bounds into the world of meteorology, or step into astronomy or geology, those people would get mad at them and ridicule them and say, go back to your chemistry department. You have no idea what you're talking about. We're the experts. You couldn't possibly use chemistry inside of a star. You know, they're nuclear and all this stuff. So naturally, there's a big gap of understanding there. Regardless if the stars are giant electrochemical reactions and are vast dissipative events, they're not nuclear. So you have that incredible compartmentalization based off of people wanting to protect their own turf and their own beliefs about how the universe works. Instead of metamorphosis, I build a bridge, or at least I'm trying to build a bridge from chemistry into astronomy. As well, there is a gap between geology and astronomy. Somehow the Earth, it has been separated from the very process of stellar evolution itself, meaning astronomers don't realize that as the star cools and dies, the elements combine with each other, chemistry, making molecules, and it becomes what's called a life-hosting planet similar to the Earth. And the Earth is in itself an ancient star. So not only are we connecting chemistry to astronomy and astrophysics, we're connecting geology to astronomy and astrophysics, and we're connecting geology to chemistry. I'm building the bridges between those three main sciences, which have been compartmentalized to the point to where there's no understanding being had about how stars actually evolve, how planets form, how any of that actually occurs. So the actual notion of protecting your turf is detrimental to the processes involved in communication of sciences, of the truth of nature being interdisciplinary. There's no big chemistry box on the earth that says this is chemistry only, and then there's a big box on the earth that says this is geology only, and then there's a big box on the earth that says this is, astronomy only. It doesn't work like that. All three of those big sciences, and even other sciences, are all connected with each other. And building those connections runs counter to the very act of compartmentalization and the processes that people go through school to become experts in their field. And that is a very important idea I wanted to share with you guys. But today is August 5th, 2015. I'll save another talk like this for later. Alright. Hopefully people can really understand what all this means later.